I am joined by the co-founder of Witchmark Distillery and Stone Daisy Brewery brewer and distiller, Eddie Large. How are you, Eddie?
Really good, thanks, Andy. Thank you very much for having me here today. As a whiskey distillery, we really are keen on our provenance. It's not marketing speak for us. It's how we base our business, and we're taking products from the farm where we're based and turning them into the spirits that we're going to be making.
Because when we were talking last week, we were talking about a lot of people hiding behind the words sustainability and ethics and using it as a marketing buzzword rather than living it, but you guys are very much living it.
You can track our product from the shelf all the way back down to the field where the barley came from. We're very lucky that we're based in one of the best barley growing regions of the country. So at the moment we've got about 500 tons of last year's barley harvest in a shed. It's just about to go to Warminster, where there's Warminster maltings. The oldest working maltings in the country, where they'll turn the barley into malt, which allows us then to extract the sugars back in our mash tun. And there's 10 miles from us to the maltings, so there's 20 food miles on the malt once it goes into our mash tun. We then use water from the aquifer. We've got our own borehole, so we use the water from the aquifer on the farm. It's the same water that would have watered and nourished the barley. It's a very similar water to the aquifer that Warminster Malting then uses to steep the barley to start the germination process. Then we use the same water again in our production process and in the watering down process. So that's it. That's the transparency that we can do, being small, and anyone can come and have a look at it. One of the things we'll have at the distillery when we're up and running is a visitor centre where we will be able to take people around the distillery. And from the distillery, you can see the field where last year's barley is grown. It's about 100 metres away. And the year before that, the barley that was grown is 200 metres away on the other side of the road.
Yeah, and I love the idea of coming to the distillery, coming to the visitor centre and seeing and tasting, and it all being within a few metres, which is exciting. And what we spoke when we chatted last week, we were talking about, you call it, it's basically a very pure English spirit. Is what you were saying is that, because a lot of people do sort of bring in or import or sort of get base spirit from other people, but you were talking about your pure spirit being the embodiment of authenticity.
Absolutely. Whiskey makers all make alcohol. They actually make the alcohol from scratch. In our case, we make it from malt. So we'll be a single malt distillery. An awful lot of people in gin and vodka are not necessarily making their own alcohol. They're getting it in from elsewhere and possibly getting water from the mains. So 40% by volume comes in a container and 60% by volume comes out of the tap. It's difficult to say that is quite as local.
Yes,
as what we're trying to achieve. We will do everything we can to reduce our carbon footprint. Energy costs money, so it's a really good reason not to use too much of it.
Yes.
And we've invested very heavily in heat recovery systems on the stills, so that whatever energy we are using, we can reuse as many times as possible. Also, we're putting solar panels on our roofs. It's a no-brainer. We've got some very big roofs to put solar on there, and our main energy source is LPG.
Explain what LPG is.
Oh, it's liquid propane gas. It's big. We've got giant gas bottles. We've got 8 very big gas containers outside. But the LPG we're using is a byproduct of the green diesel production process. So HVO is green diesel. The byproduct of that is LPG. So that's the LPG that we're going to be using. So it has a carbon footprint, but it has a carbon footprint about 40% of fossil fuel LPG.
Okay.
So if you start whittling those down, and then you have a win on your malt as well, we're going to have a very low carbon footprint. We haven't audited it yet because we're not up and running. But once we're up and running, we'll have the audit. And that's all going as part of our B-Corp certification, which we are about 3 weeks away of having our B-Corp impact statement.
That's really exciting. The B-Corp, so just in case, because not everybody always knows what B-Corp certified is. It's basically a company that has voluntarily met the highest standards of social and environmental performance. And so, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, you obviously have a real firm belief in what you're doing, and you are living and breathing it, as well as trying to make really, really good product.
People talk about a circular economy, and if you're dealing with big boys, it's difficult to see it. It's the transparency. It's really difficult to get your head around so many different moving parts. But if you're dealing with small companies, they can be transparent. And if they're not transparent, you've got to ask why. And ask the questions about where the raw ingredients have come from, how it goes together, and how it fits together with the word sustainable if it appears on their packaging. And greenwashing has become a term that we're all familiar with. You can't be accused of that if you can open the doors and say, look.
Thank you, Eddie. It's really lovely to get an insight into the people behind the businesses and sort of talking about, I think the sustainability issue is big, it's real, and it's great that people like you guys are tackling it, and it's great to learn from you. Everybody, Eddie Large. Thank you, sir. Now go and get yourself a drink and a bite to eat.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Cheers.